All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hometown Huddle podcast. We're excited to have you tuned in this week. We have a special guest this week. I feel like all the guests we get, we're really grateful for all of them coming in. But tonight we're going to be talking to Dan Murphy. So some kind of just talking about him, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say tonight. But he played running back here at Royal High School. And was a big part of the team that went to, and correct me, Dan, if I'm wrong on any of this. This is what I was looking stuff up today. Was on the first team in '94 that went to the state championship, and then went on to play at Central Washington University. Had a record-setting career there. Was an All-American in his time there at Central Washington, and then was inducted into the CWU Hall of Fame in 2015. Today we want to talk a little bit about playing football at various different levels, because Dan's one of the most experienced in that regard that we've had come out of Royal High School, and overcoming obstacles as a small school athlete, to talk about kind of the path to becoming a record-breaking running back, because the stuff I was reading today was really interesting, of like position changes and stuff that happen, and then just life lessons from the game, and then just kind of anything else we might happen to talk about. So Dan, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I guess kind of just getting started. We'll start at the beginning. What was football like for you growing up in Royal City? What was it like back in the early days? Did you guys have grid kids? Like, yeah, what was your? Yeah, I guess not too early. I guess we did interview somebody last week. My grandpa from 1950s. Dan is not even close to that time. So
yeah.
But
we had face masks back then.
Yeah.
Those kind of things.
Wasn't quite leather helmets back in the 90s.
Football was awesome. I mean, it was like any, growing up in Royal City, it was, as a little kid, you just dreamt about, you go out to Friday night lights and go out there and, we're playing tackle football in the back, but you're still watching the game and, with the likes of, when I was growing up, guys like Rick Manecki and, those kind of guys, Alberto Valcarlos, kind of the guys you kind of wanted to emulate. And so, it was awesome. We didn't have grid kids back then. So, I mean, our first taste of football was, 7th grade, middle school.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's awesome. I didn't know about the.
But it was.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
It was great. No, I mean, it was great. Just growing up in Royal City is always, it's a unique place. And football was good back then, too. It's crazy how it's kind of evolved into what it is now. It's just state championship after state championship now.
What year did you graduate, Dan?
I graduated in '95. So yeah, that '94 season, we had a pretty good run there and made it to the Kingdom with Mr. Nielsen, and that was pretty crazy.
So, and I don't know if this is right, having done, I guess, some research into it, but with, Bob Nielsen, Coach Nielsen, had coached for a really long time and had a lot of really successful seasons. But my understanding, I think before that 94 season, that was like his first year of winning any playoff games. Is that right?
I don't know really the history of that, and maybe Larry might know, but, they always did well in districts and that, and then, that year we just, everything was starting to click, and yeah, we had some good games and some real, close one with East Valley there at to go to the Kingdom, it was like an overtime win or something pretty close to that, a field goal kind of got us there, so that was pretty crazy deal, pretty surreal, really.
Yeah, that's one I think when. Oh, Dad, sorry, are you trying to say something? Go ahead and.
No, I was going to say this might be beside the point a little bit, but it'd be cool to have an episode where we got a few guys, a few of Dan's fellow players in that together and just talked about that single experience, a couple weeks of playoffs and going to that first one. That would be a cool episode. Anyway, that's kind of a side note.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or even my old college roommate, because he was from East Valley, so I always had that over his head for like 5 years at Central,
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's an awesome one to go read about. People get a chance. There's a website called Small Town Papers, and you can find old issues of the Royal Register, Royal Review, and there's a big old write up about it in there. But talking about that season, going into that season, did you guys feel like you had the potential to make it to a state championship. What were kind of expectations like going into that season, if you remember? I mean, it's been a while, and you've played a lot of football since then.
That was a long time ago, and
Yeah.
But I think we were just for me, it was just like another football season, right? And the season before, I don't remember how far we got, but you know what? I think we thought we were, good players, and we, had just as big a goals as the next guy. Maybe it just seemed a little unattainable to get to all the way to the state because it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if it was on our radar or not.
Yeah.
Beginning of the season, I think it was just like one game at a time. You wanted to win all your season games, and then you just hoped you could, win some playoff games. And all of a sudden you were staring at the semifinal game there in Othello playing these East Valley guys, and next thing you knew, we were on a bus over to Seattle. So it was kind of just a wild ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I think a cool thing about that, season specifically, and it'd be really fun to delve into the, details maybe in another episode or something, but it really did, I feel like, just really got the ball rolling. You look at where we're at today of all these state championships and stuff, but just so much of that came from that foundation that was built by you guys, especially in those those days when you make it to a state championship, and now it's like, hey, this is possible, like we're right there, and then win a couple years later, and then it's just that mentality I think has never really changed from that point.
I think we learned a few things. The coaches learned a few things that year, and and then they went on a couple years later, and it was Mr. Nielsen and Coach Wiley, and just rolling after that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any, favorite memories from high school football? Anything, funny stories or anything, any memories of Coach Nielsen or of Wiley back in the day? I don't know what were,
Coach Nielsen, it was funny, there was lots of good times and, memorable games and that kind of deal. It was just funny when we first went to the Kingdom, though, I was walking next to Coach Nielsen, we're right in the middle, walk into this huge stadium that you'd gone as a kid to watch the Seahawks play in, and he walked in there with Coach, and he's looking up, and all he could think about was just how many potatoes he could fit in that big cellar,
That's awesome.
So that was kind of, I always just remembered him talking about how many potatoes he could put in that old Kingdom. So it was pretty fun.
That's crazy. That's cool. Yeah, that's the small town perspective, I guess, when you go to something like that. In your personal football journey, so you went on to play at Central Washington University in Ellensburg, which, now with our brother Caleb playing there, we've got, I'd never really been there until this last season. It's an awesome place, beautiful campus, a great football program. What was your kind of recruiting experience like with that? When did you start talking to him or commit? Like, how did that whole process work back then?
Well, everybody's like, all these colleges and everything. It was different back then, right? Like, we didn't have there was no, like, Huddle or, your films weren't all over the nation. It was, quite honestly, when it came down to it, there was one coach came out from Central to talk to me, and they were the only school that, offered me a spot on the team. And it wasn't like they were offering me a full ride scholarship. It was like, here, you can come play, and we have a spot for you if you, on a 95-man roster, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And what was that during your senior year? Was that earlier than that? Like what?
No, senior year after. I'm trying to think of when it was, but it was probably like basketball season or something like that, where coaches start, they start coming around and stuff, and who knows? He was probably on his way to see somebody in Spokane, so he'd stop through Royal City and
yeah. Hey,
see if he had any takers.
Nice, huh?
Did you have aspirations prior to that, Dan, to play college football?
Oh yeah. But it was kind of one of those deals where you just thought like, wow, man, you watch WSU and these as you're growing up, and you're just like, man, unattainable almost. It didn't even seem like it was in the wheelhouse of, I'm gonna play my college or my high school football, and then I'm gonna. That was probably going to be my next choice, is maybe going to WSU and, just getting my education. So.
And so
But we, Coach, there was a guy named Coach Walker actually came out and recruited me, and he ended up the next year, coaches, they are always trying to move up too. He ended up going to Missouri and coaching for the Missouri Tigers for, I think 15, 20 years. He just retired, 5 years ago or so, but yeah.
The coaching carousel, I often say, is just all that movement around.
Sure.
You get to Central as a freshman, and I'm kind of going off some of the stuff. I think it was the Hall of Fame thing from 2015. I read some of the details where people kind of shared some things. But redshirted your freshman year, and you started out as a defensive back. Is that right? When you were there, like your freshman year?
Yeah, when I left, I think senior year Royal, probably 185 pounds, maybe, dripping wet, and then worked the summer. Worked for I think I worked for Dean Callahan all summer, and did the typical hay deal where you're just working hours and hours and hours and not, wasn't working out, eating the way a guy should, that you kind of learn nowadays. But, so I lost 10 pounds. So I reported there 175 pounds, and they were kind of like, who's this guy,
Yeah.
What are we going to do with him, and it was that's kind of what Coach Pica was saying, and so I got there and, they were like, well, I guess you're going to play defensive back. And I played middle linebacker for, in high school. And I'm like, defensive back, I don't even know how to backpedal, and so they had me there and just, a couple weeks in and I was getting kind of, one, homesick, it was only Ellensburg, right, an hour away, but you're still getting homesick, first time out, and you're kind of getting beat up a little bit, don't know what you're doing, and so I was right on the edge. I called home, probably crying, and parents are like, suck it up, you can do this, and so, next thing I know, they kind of swapped me over to tight end, and so 175-pound tight end, probably not much. Not too intimidating. Yes. And played, just played there for a year, on scout team. That was the national championship year when, John Kitna was the quarterback, and we, won the national championship, and I was the, tight end, scout team tight end, so I think that's, you were asking about Pica, and that's, when it was just fun going against the first team defense, and showing those guys, trying to give them a good look, and so you're just trying hard, just trying to make the team.
Yep. Yeah, and I think there's a quote from Coach Pica in that article that talks about there's a moment, I think some guys got hurt and they're like, all right, well, we'll put Dan in the backfield and see how he does, and you tore up the first team defense, and some light bulbs kind of started going off with in the heads of the coaches. Was that into your sophomore year when you kind of went?
My freshman year.
Well, part of freshman year.
And then so my redshirt freshman year is when I kind of started it as a tailback for Central, and
nice.
But yeah, it's kind of a, college is funny too. A lot of it's right place, right time. What people see and don't. So I got kind of lucky that way, and they remembered that I played running back in high school, and so they just stuck me there, and it kind of worked.
So kind of, the process of that. So going from your freshman year, redshirting, kind of what were your, expectations or feelings going into the next season, or kind of your journey from there? Were you, looking, fired up to hey, I want to get a starting spot, or was it just, still kind of a battle being on the team? What was the process like?
It was still a battle. College is, there was probably half a dozen running backs in front of me, from seniors down to my same age of guys, and and kind of intimidating a little bit just because you're small town. Most of these guys were from bigger towns, bigger schools. And they let you know how good they were too. So you're so silently in the back, you're just trying to figure out, and you can do it, and so you just got to get the shot at it, and that's, and honestly, going to college, and as you get older, you mature, physically more, and I put on probably 25 pounds that first season, so I went in there, weighing 200 pounds my freshman year, my redshirt year, and just kind of kept growing from there.
Yeah, and just kind of keep it going. You mentioned the small town aspect. How were there many guys on the team at that point that came from schools like Royal or small town schools, or was it kind of mostly big schools?
There was a few. I mean, it's funny, even look at Central now, and there's just not a lot of, or even East Side kids, that come.
Yeah.
It's always awesome to see. Like, I'm so excited that Caleb's there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's awesome that we got season tickets up there, and it's just great to see.
Yeah.
A local kid on the side, just in the crimson and black. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It is. It's interesting now that Caleb's there. So often we talk about this and think about this is, man, how come more Royal kids don't go to Central? It's a perfect spot to go play. And
yeah,
I definitely think there's a lot of talented kids that come out of Royal, and it's close to home. Good program.
Yeah.
Man.
No, the football's great there. I mean, it's top notch. I mean, they bring in kids from all over it's crazy, all over the nation, really,
Yeah.
But there's kids that would fit in there, they just, and they just need the shot at it, and the will to go do it too. I mean, it's a big step to go to college, play college football, as you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of a job a bit,
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
You're waking up early in the mornings, you're working out, and you're going to practice, and doing that a couple times a day, and
yeah,
it's a whole different, meetings after meetings, and
mm-hmm. Yeah, it is kind of the ultimate grind in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but I mean, it's super rewarding, or it was, and it was for me anyway, so.
Yeah. No, I can imagine, and it's so cool. I definitely agree with everything that's kind of been said. That game day atmosphere at Central is awesome. It's really fun. My wife, we had a baby in November, so I only got to go to a handful of games kind of early in the season. But man, it's just fun. Like, we've been missing out on this, I feel like, for all these years of going to these Central
I know,
games. It's not exactly that far.
Right.
I'm like, even if there's not a kid we know on the team, I'm like, it's just fun to go to these.
So 45 minutes away from Royal, and it's good college football,
Yeah, it really is.
I think some people maybe have a different idea of what it would be, but great stadium, great culture. It's super fun.
Yeah, it's great. So I hope we can see some more Royal kids make their way over there. So so I think it was 98. Was that your senior year, or was it redshirt junior year? I'm trying to do the math.
That was my junior year. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and so that was I think the year you got All-American honors, ran for 1,445 yards and 19 touchdowns. Talk to us about that season a little bit. So had you been playing a lot the season prior? Were you already a starter at that point, or was that kind of a breakout year? What was that year like?
Yeah, no, I mean, luckily I got to start for all my 4 years after I kind of started my freshman year there.
Nice.
98 was just like a year that things kind of came together for us. We had a really good season, and we went far into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, lost in the playoffs, but it was, it was just O-line. I grew up with these guys that I'd come up with, that were then seniors, and it just was one of those deals that it was just gelled and things just worked out. Some years you have good years, others you had bad, and that was a good year.
Yeah.
That was. My next year, my senior year, I ended up playing a lot more fullback. There was some scouts and stuff that wanted to see me, play that position.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up splitting. There's a kid from Pasco named Nat Conley who was super fast. You know, he backed me up for a couple of years, and and then that year we kind of split time almost. You know, we'd run like a 2-back set, and I'd run fullback. So
Okay.
just it's still a good fun season, just a different role. You know?
No, definitely. Now in college football with the transfer portal and NIL and everything, you see guys switching teams all the time. But you had mentioned that, especially with that offensive line, it's these guys that you had kind of grown up with in this system. How much did that mean to you to have teammates like that you kind of built a rapport with? Do you still keep in contact with any of those guys? What's that relationship like in college between teammates?
Yeah, that portal deal I'm not a big fan of. I feel like it's kind of, I don't know if it's real, because I'm just some, 47-year-old guy that's complaining about what's going on now. But, I just feel like, if you're just chasing this dream of, I'm not sure what it is, it's kind of ruining team chemistry. And then every year the coaches are having to try to rebuild this thing, and it's tough. I think it was my sophomore year. I'd had a couple good years, and my junior year I was like in the back of my mind, like thinking of going to like WSU and trying to play like the next level up. And I looked around my roommate, who was like a O lineman, 4-year starter at Central, and I'm just like, I can't like just abandon him, because of, I'm going to finish this thing out, and whatever happens after that. So,
yeah, that kind of loyalty definitely has gone away in college football, seems like.
Yeah, it's and a lot of that transfer dream too is hurting kids. They think they're bigger than the game. They think they're going to, then they kind of ruin it with, they go in the transfer portal. The coaches are like, okay, we'll see you later, and then nobody wants them, right? There's no room for them somewhere else. And then they just kind of, that's the end of their career. Central had that like a few years ago, quarterback, running back, and wide receiver all went in the portal. And it was like a brand new thing. All thought they were going to go D1 and, set the world on fire. All three of them. One went sideways, played for another team that in the same division as Central. The other two never played again. And they were and they were good players. Like they were starting players. So
Ouch.
It's kind of a bummer. I think sometimes it gives people like a false hope almost, of like what's maybe it's fine for some of these kids that are getting this crazy money, but I don't know. It would be hard as a 19, 20-year-old to turn down $1 million, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough, and you wonder how much guys are even making off this, because you're like at the top. Yeah, some of these crazy dudes are probably making a bunch, but I don't know. You see these guys switching teams around all over the place, and I don't know. It's like you say.
Yeah. If you're getting like a handful of McDonald's vouchers or something, I don't know if that's worth it.
Yeah, giving up all these relationships, memories you've built, with your teammates.
I think Caleb would probably take the McDonald's vouchers.
Yeah,
hey,
can get them.
I'll drop some off the next time I'm up in Ellsberg.
There we go. So during your time at Central, what are some of your favorite memories or moments that stick out to you from your time there?
Oh man, favorite memories there. I think most of it is just like the relationships and playing with, super, close friends that you're sitting there working out in weight room early in the morning and practicing, and all this time you're just spending with them, and you put all this effort in, and then it all culminates into like a set of like 10 games you get to go play, right? And those are getting to play those games was just incredible, getting the opportunity to do that kind of thing. And so I don't have any like one particular, I think, necessarily game that was like stand out. It was just, so much of the whole picture of it, and the friendships I made up there, and there's several people that still talk to on a weekly basis, monthly basis kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then just to be able to go back, you go back up there. There's not many up there still that are there, but and one of them just retired, Coach Pika, who I think you guys might have met.
Yeah.
With Caleb, he just retired, and they just inducted him into the Hall of Fame. He's going in this year. I thought he should have been in 10 years ago, but he just retired, so I guess you got to be out of the game before they'll put you in it. But
was he the head coach when you were there?
No, he's always been the assistant coach. He was a head coach, like kind of an interim, like 1 year. He didn't ever wanted to be the head coach, never applied for it. He had to be it because the head coach got fired from something. I can't remember what the deal was.
Yeah.
But he was, he raised his family there, and pretty unique situation. He's basically the assistant head coach for a long time.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, congratulations to him for making it to the Hall of Fame. An awesome career, it sounds like. And I love hearing those stories of, guys that are just find their home and stick with it. That's really cool.
It's so interesting, the relationships that you talk about, because even observing Caleb up there, I guess one that comes to mind is Justin Brennan. He's another quarterback there. And outside of football, he and Caleb probably couldn't be more opposite, their personal lives. But they are roommates when they travel. And Caleb has really gotten to enjoy getting to know him. And there's probably no other situation in Caleb's life where he would even get to know Justin Brennan. But football has made that, and they, and now he's like, hey, we're good buddies, and so it's amazing how that is. And
no, for sure. One of my best buddies from Pasco, I was saying, Nat Conley, who was my roommate. We're both running backs, and we were, he'd always tease me because I'd want to watch, like tractor pulls, like the morning before, on TV, because it's cable TV, and he's like, "What? You're the biggest redneck ever," But just and then now we're just great friends, just those type of things. Yeah, I mean, we're not the same. Yeah, we pretty opposite, but it just brings you to get different kind of groups of people together, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And I love how you said it's kind of that there's maybe not one moment or one game that stands out, but it's that whole journey that you kind of make with these guys, this like big collective crazy effort you put in that kind of ties you together. And I think sometimes we can lose sight of that in all aspects of life. So it's cool to hear about that. So, kind of continue on here. So you mentioned your senior year, you kind of had to shift roles a little bit, split in time, playing some fullback because some scouts wanted to see you at that position. Your senior year, are these, pro scouts, I'm assuming, coming to see this. What were kind of your thoughts in that year? Did you have aspirations to go play in the NFL or play at the professional level during your senior year?
I think even as a little kid, you're watching the Seahawks play, right? And you're just like, how awesome would that be?
Yeah.
So in the back of your mind, you're always like, I mean, maybe that pushes you, to never give up and just to like keep, you're always trying to just continue on and try to one up the last thing you did maybe. And so, yeah, I mean, the scouts came around, and I don't know, it was still kind of surreal, right? You meet these guys and you're like, oh, all right, they're here, but is this really going to pan out to anything? And so you just keep grinding, and you just, and so my senior year, I just, was hoping for the best and, knew I still needed to get my education because I wasn't going to put my, thinking that I was going to just be the next, Mike Allstott or something.
Yeah. Still kind of committed to that. And so after your time at Central was done, I've heard a lot of people kind of, oh yeah, Dan Murphy did this and that. So what was kind of the process of things after you were done at Central? Like what kind of happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, once I got done with Central, I mean, then that last year, then I went and played in a Senior Bowl over in North Dakota, like a Division II Senior Bowl, and lots of scouts there and that, and had a pretty decent game there. And then, so, then draft comes, right? And I think that's like a April type
Yeah. That
Yep.
sounds right.
deal. And so, so scouts came, were talking to me, they, yada, yada, want to get you an agent, all this other stuff. And, so then I kept training, just
Yeah.
by chance that something cool might happen. And then the draft came, and they were saying, potential get drafted, but I didn't. And then, but then right afterwards, got a couple calls from a couple different teams, and could either go to the Seahawks or go to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys had a better fit, so I just signed with them.
Nice. And then what was that process like from there? You sign with the Cowboys. Are you heading down to Dallas like immediately? What was that like?
Yeah, I went down there like probably a couple weeks after a week after the draft. It was pretty quick. I went down there and just started, training. There's some mini camps that went to, and which was crazy.
Yeah.
Just trying, you're like, I don't know. It was all just really like surreal. That's the only way I can think about it.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really believe you were just sitting there, and some of the people you're sitting next to, that were playing for the Dallas Cowboys at the time, meetings with Emmitt Smith and, Joey Galloway and all those guys from back in Detroit. It was the quarterback when I was down there. It was his last year. And
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, it was beyond cool, but as a 20-something-year-old kid, just probably didn't appreciate it as much as I would now. But but no, I mean, but that was still a great experience, but college I had some knee issues and stuff, and so I had to went down there, and I was down there for a few months, training and stuff, and ended up I hurt myself even worse, and so that was kind of the end of the road.
Yeah. That's still, I mean, like you said, it's surreal hearing about it. I'm like getting goosebumps sitting like, whoa, just imagining being in a room with all, those guys and the Dallas Cowboys, and man, what a cool deal. Go ahead.
So Dan, what was the personal level at that? I mean, at that level, what were relationships like there? I mean, in college, I can see, hey, we're buddies, we're on the same team, this kind of thing. Was it so competitive at the professional level that it was less? I mean, less relationship wise, or how did that work?
I don't know. I think it was still great. Everybody was super good down there. I mean, one of the nicest guys I ever met was Emmitt Smith. Even when so it's always a bummer. So the day I got released from there, you go into the coach's office and you know what's coming. You're like, oh man. So, but anyway, and so afterwards, Emmitt Smith's in the locker room with me. He's just super great. Just like supportive and hey, just kind of said some good words, and that was, that's just kind of guy he was. I think, it is a competitive situation down there. It was just me and one other fullback that was the guy that was starting there at the time, and me that were kind of going after the same job. So it was like one of us is getting fired, right?
Yeah.
I can't say that he was like super chatty with me or nothing. But that was fine, But,
yeah. So what was your physical form at that point, Dan? How much did you weigh?
Like 250.
Yeah.
So I was quite a bit bigger than my freshman year of college.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I remember coming home to Royal. I don't remember what the occasion was. We lived in Arizona at the time, I think. It's probably around the year 2000 or somewhere in there. And seeing you and just being like, oh my gosh, that is Dan Murphy, the little kid when I left Royal.
Yeah, started eating more dorm food. It was helpful.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Oh man. Huh. Well, so I guess, you've had this kind of crazy experience of, small high school athlete and then going on to college and then, getting a shot in the pros. What advice would you give to young athletes today, kind of, starting their journey maybe in high school football or maybe early college football? What advice would you have for them?
That's a good question. I mean, honestly, like, kids, dream big about stuff would be my, and be, don't get overwhelmed. Don't think that it's not attainable. If you want something, go get it, but you got to be willing to put in the time, though. I mean, it's not, college football is not given to you. It's a pretty demanding job, and you got to be willing to put in the time, and you got to check I think you got to check your ego at the door. You can't just think you're going to go in there and be a starter your first year.
Yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, I mean, you might be the best person on your high school football team. That doesn't mean you're going to be the best, or maybe even close to as a freshman, on your college team. I mean, those guys are, have gained 50. They got 50 pounds on, and they're, and they got 4 years of, going toe to toe with some pretty mean dudes. So
every guy on that team was the best guy on their high school team, and then they've also grown up a little bit.
Well,
I think
some of them. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I think at some point in time, I've heard you say, Dan, that in high school, imagine the hardest hit that you ever had. And when you go to college, they're all like that. And then in college, imagine the hardest hit you've ever had. And then you go to the NFL, and they're all like that. And it's just...
Oh, yeah, it is very big jumps. Very big jumps.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, remember the two NFL linebackers that were down in Dallas? They were both bench presses, like Dak Gwynn and Dexter Coakley. I still remember those guys. I mean, 500-pound bench presses, and you're just like, these guys are the real deal, You go hit those guys, you hit something.
Yeah, and they want to kill you every play.
Well, I love that advice there for kids. I think that's awesome. And I think we all kind of need that encouragement sometimes to dream big. Don't give up on that, but understand, the time it's going to take to put into that. So thanks, Dan, for sharing that.
I wish more, I think there's a lot of kids in Royal that could take advantage of that, but they just need to just keep the foot on the gas and just, don't think, well, I'm small, small town kid. There's no room for me somewhere. No, you can go beat out any person you want to if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. So I guess, we'll kind of getting kind of wrapped up here at the end, but tell us a little bit. So what, the future of the Murphy family, or tell us a little bit about your kids you got coming up here through the program, or, that have been through the program a little bit. We'd love to hear about your family a little bit.
Well, future, I mean, Andon, he's now.
Yeah, he's
he's
the future of coaching.
Yeah, he's coaching at coaching high school basketball and middle school basketball and doing that, and married, as a cute little baby right now. So I'm.
Did they have their baby?
Does he really?
Man, I didn't realize they already had their baby. Well, wow, congratulations, Grandpa. That's awesome, man. I didn't even know. I remember I talked to him during middle school because he was coaching Cash's team. And then now he's coaching with the high school, and he was telling, we're having a kid, and I didn't realize it was that soon. That's awesome, huh?
Yeah, he's about a month and a half old, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's cool. I didn't even know. That's fun. So he'll be in the same grade as my daughter. That's cool.
Yeah, there you go. And then I got the two younger ones, and Kellen, he's in 5th grade, and Braden, he's in 3rd grade. So they're both playing. Kellen. Great kids and basketball and all this baseball. Baseball's coming up, so we're about to start that. So it's quite the whirlwind of lots of sports in Royal right now.
Yeah, you're going to be busy.
Yeah, grandson now too. It's like it's never going to end. Just keep it going. That's the dream, though. Just games all the time.
Keep yourself busy. Keep stay young.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Dan, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us and sharing your story. It's so cool to hear. And especially just to hear it from you. I think I've heard so many things and read things in newspapers, but man, we sure appreciate you sharing with us and really thank you for being a big part of this kind of foundation of Royal football and for inspiring these kids that are coming up and have been a part of this. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you guys' time.
Yeah.
Thanks,
anything
Dan.
else, Dad? Yeah, we're never super good at closing things up. But
I know the closing is the hardest part. That's awesome. I just love hearing that stuff. That is, and that's I personally know Dan. You're a big part of the community, your family. It's funny when we were interviewing my dad a week ago, talking about the first families in Royal, and he mentioned the Murphys. He loved your grandpa. I can remember Ken coming over and talking politics.
I'm sure those were probably some pretty good conversations. I'm sure.
Yep. So
Grandpa. Yeah.
Thanks for all your contributions in every way.
Yeah, we appreciate
it's been great to be back. We took a little. I was gone for 15 years almost, and then we moved back about 8 years ago and moved into the old family farm, and it's been awesome. Just live 2 miles from the school, so it's just you get to watch all these kids' games, and even ones that our kids aren't even a part of. It's just good fun to run up the street and watch a couple of basketball games or whatever. It's awesome.
Yeah,
yep,
absolutely.
It is.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in this week. We'll hopefully have a guest next. I always say, okay, we'll have it planned out ahead of time. We never really do, but we appreciate everybody tuning in this week, and we will see you guys next week.